Blood Gemara. Today's daf is daf Memam and Aleph Gittin. We are learning that there are certain telltale signs that if we see an eved, a slave, behaving a certain way, we can assume that the master has probably set him free already. And we started out with Rebbe, who said that if a slave was married off by his own master to another woman, then definitely the master must have set him free. Otherwise, he's committing a sin, because an Eved Kanani is not allowed to marry a Jewish woman, a Bas Chayrin. And then we mentioned tefillin, if the master gave it tefillin for Rabbi Vashela, so we're going to learn that right now. So the Gemara is Amar Rabbi Shimon Levi, about 10 lines at the top of the page. Amar Rabbi Shimon Levi, Eved, a slave, Shehiniach tefillin bifnei Rabbi, that placed tefillin on himself in front of his Rebbe, Yatzel Cheder is a sign that he's free. And why is that? Not because he puts on tefillin and he makes brachas, because Tosfos holds and Rabbein Tam holds and many Rishonim hold, and Ramah Paskas Marach, that a woman is, even though she's exempt for certain mitzvahs, if she wants to perform them, she can, and she can make a bracha. And technically, Tosfos here says by tefillin will be the same thing. She can put on tefillin and make a bracha, even though they don't. By tefillin, at least they don't. Tefillin and tzitzis, they don't. But the idea is that generally women did not put on tefillin at all. And because and avodim generally did not put on tefillin at all, and avodim are compared to women. We learned yesterday law they have all the same dinim as a woman. So therefore, to see an eved wearing tefillin, it's something strange, unless he's no longer an eved. So you want to ask a question, Meisvei? That's it. Let me ask you a question. Love the Rabbi. What happened? You find that the master borrowed money from his slave. Now that indicates to you that he's not a slave. If he's a slave, whatever he owns belongs to the master. What does it mean? The master is borrowing money from the slave. Or the master told the Eved, I want you to be the executive of my estate. I want you to run my, charge affairs, run all my inyanim. He puts in his Rebbe. 3 psukim is the minimum size of an aliyah. He got 3 psukim, an aliyah in a shul, bifnei Rabbi while his master there. All of these things does not yet necessarily mean that he is set free. The master allows him to do it. So it's clearly here that just because he put on tefillin, even though it's not common for an Eved to put on tefillin, he's allowed to. If he did, it's not the end of the world. Just like a woman's allowed to get on aliyah as well. We had more Megillah Daf Chabez there. A woman's allowed to get on aliyah. So none of this is definitive proof. And an Eved also could be somebody gave him money on the condition the master doesn't get control over it, and therefore, and the master is in desperate need of money. He asked the Eved, "Can you give me money from your account?" It could happen. So that's not necessarily. It's not compelling proof that he's been set free. So what's that? A contradiction. How is Rabbi Shimon Levi reconcile this? When Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said that if an Eved puts on tefillin, it's an indication that he's been set free already. That's only if you see the master standing there and assisting the Eved in putting on his tefillin. But if the Eved puts it on his own, it doesn't prove anything. Okay, so about it further. Also, Rabbi Yechanan came. And from Yisrael, he said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Misha Amar B'Shas Misasa. If somebody says while he died, Puloinis Shivchasi, this maid of mine, Al Yishtabdu B'Olach HaMoisi, I don't want you no longer to use her services after I pass away. Is Kaifin as Ayoshim. You actually compel the heirs. The Kaisin will get Shicher. They have to write or get Shicher. Not the right to get shikha. Why? Because since you can no longer use the money side of it is gone, they no longer have control over this eved to make the eved or the amma work. So all you have left is Isa. So we force the Yoshim to try to get shikha to free the eved up, and he should become a full, or she should become a full-fledged yid. Says the Gemara. So Rabbi Rabasi said to Rav Dimi, Rebbe, aren't you moide shebena avodim? When you said, they said you made a mistake. That language, al yishtabdeboy, is not saying I'm setting her free. Saying I don't want you to make her work hard. Don't maltreat her. That's all he's saying. But retain her as an eved. Okay, so she can no longer work. But if she has children, the children are avodim, and you can make them work. So why in the world would you force the Yosh and set her free? So it must be a mistake what you're saying, Avdimi. But the mistake is the language, not in the halacha part of it, but the language. It's not a language of freedom. However, when Rav Shmuel came, he said, I would say something differently. He said, Misha Amma B'Shas Misase, if a person is dying, and he said, this particular maid, she was always so good to me, or she made me feel, she did some nice things for me. He's I want you to do something very nice for her. Without specifying what exactly he wants his children to do for this maid. Koifin as a Yoshin, we force the Yoshin, but Oisin law Kaidus Ruach. We force the Yoshin that they should set her free, because that is the ultimate Kaidus Ruach. You can give someone, grant them their freedom. So the Gemara, my time, and why do the children have to keep that? Because mitzvah l'kayin dibra mesh, where we had the principle before, there's a mitzvah to fulfill the words of a maid. These are his last wishes. These are his last wishes. Says the Gemara, Omar, Ameimar says, so basically, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yehuda argues with Rabbi Dimi. He says, Rabbi Yechon didn't say what you said. He didn't say, al yishtab the bar, and then you force the Yerushin. He said, and that's what happened. Says the Gemara, Omar Ameimar says, Hamavkid Avdoi, if somebody makes his Eved Hefker, if someone makes his Eved Hefker, now, when you make an Eved Hefker, we had before Shmuel that said if you make an Eved Hefker, then you give him a get shikhr. According to Shmuel, you don't have to give him a get shikhr. The moment he's free, he's free completely. And according to Rav and Rabbi Yechanan, if you make an Eved Hefker, you still have to give him a get shikhr. Because Hefker only deals with the financial side, the money side, and not the relationship in the Easter. Comes along a name says, and we had a name before already. If somebody makes his Eved Hefker, that Eved ain't like takani. So in a state of limbo. There's no takana at all. Or no takana. Cannot marry Yiddish woman because he still didn't receive yet that get. Cannot marry a shivcha because he already was set free or mafkir, and therefore he's no longer a proper evid. So he ain't a takana. But he holds not like Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi says give a star. He says it's finished. Cannot you give a star? My time, why? Gufe like Kanile. The goof no longer belongs to them. What belongs to them? Yisuri Gabe on the Issa. Now he's dying. You want him to pass on the Issa, bequeath the Issa to his children, to the next generation. Issa, you cannot pass a Yerusha. This is what I told you was the basis for those Achreinim who paskin that if a person dies on Pesach and he has chametz in his house, it doesn't get passed on to the children because Issa cannot be transferred to the children. Issa is not a kind of ownership. It's more of a religious relationship. And a religious relationship, there's no din of Yerusha. So, what do you mean? Well, we learned before and whether you mafke, whether you mak, you need to get shikhr. How are you going to explain? You're arguing with everybody. I'll tell you how I understood Rabbi Yechon, how I understood Rav. Sorry, they need a you can't give it. In a case where the person died, technically you still need a star to set them free to be able to become a yid, right? But because the person died, and now you want the children to do that act to set them free, but the children can't because they never yashened that ownership of the Issa that they could able sever the ties of the from the Issa. They don't have that koyach. And Rav said that you need a star. Yes, you need a star. That's the problem, but you can't give it. They never said the star is good, according to Ameima's understanding. Ikidamri, another version is Ameima said somebody makes what happened here was if somebody makes his Eved before we said Hamafkir Avdoi, that Eved has no takana. What about a Mafkir? Here we think the Eved was Mafkir. So we had the Gemara yesterday where they said Kasha the Meimer. The Eved was Hefker and then he died. Oh, you see Eved Lakana. My time, Gufil Lakana, he's Gufil Lakana. Sorry, in the first version of Meimah, wasn't that you cannot pass it on to your children. Sorry. First version of Meimah is that all you have left over, forget about passing on to children, all you have left over is the bailus, ownership over Isser. And ownership over Isser, you cannot pass on to your slave. You want him to set the slave free. You cannot, the slave, only set free the ownership. You have to do the whole caboodle. You have to do the ownership of the financial side and the Isser. They all come hand in hand. But if you only made Hefker, all you did was you dealt with the money side. You didn't do with Isser. And Isser on its own, you can't deal with it. That was the first amendment. And we asked the Ula Rav says, clearly you could. So he says that he's saying you need a stab, but you can't. The second amendment is talking about the case where we just said, where the person died after he made Hefker, and now you want that he should bequeath to his children that power, that authority to remove the Isser part so they can become full-fledged Jews, and that they cannot pass on. And that's the basis for I told you on Pesach. Sorry, the second amendment. My time, the the goof no longer belongs to the father who died, so therefore it cannot pass on to the children. What does the father have left? What he retained ownership only over the Isser of the Eved, that he's not a full-fledged Yid yet. And the Yisur Lebrei Modit. And just to pass on to the children, the Isser part of it, you can't. You can't. Can someone else claim the Eved? Sorry? Can someone claim the Eved? So that we had before. Abba Shol said, so you make hefker, the Gedolim make kind themselves. And Tanya, you could, but you could. But the Eved is free. The Eved is free, but he's not a Yid. Now, those who argue and say that this is totally different than the Chametz and Pesach, where they say there's no money side of it at all. Once you made him hefker, totally there's no money side. By Chametz and Pesach, he didn't make it hefker. It's Asher Hana. Isser Hana, the argument is if something is Asher Bana, do I still have a financial relationship with this object, just I can't use it? Or the pshat is if it's Asher Bana, I lost my financial arrangement with it. No, but there's no value. What do I own? It has to do with what we want to discuss. What is ownership? Is ownership you own the thing itself, or you own the use of it? If ownership means I own the use of it, then it's also I don't own anything of it. All I have is the Isa. Torah says chametz in your house, Asa, and Isa you cannot pass to children, just like my Nevid. But if you learn that Isa Hana means I still own it, I just can't use it. I still own it. It's a very different the case of an Eved you made hefker, which you no longer own at all, the financial side. So therefore, when a person dies, he does pass on to his children the chametz, because he still owns it, and anything which he owns passes on. Pariyusha. That's what the whole machlekes revolves around. Okay, also, so Rasha Tamema, board Rabbi Dimi, he came Rabbi Yochanan, and he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that somebody says when he died, don't do survey work anymore with my shivcha. They forced the Yoshim. So we see that they could pass on to the Yoshim. So the Gemara, so he says, no, as soon as the guy said, "Are you stopped the boy?" Basically, that he means he made it hefker. He made the hefker, and then we force the children to set it free. So we see clearly that even though the evidence is already hefker and the person died, it does get passed on to the children the right to set them free. So the Gemara, Dimi Tusi, didn't we say before that Dimi was a mistake? Now, but what was the mistake? Not the principle that he said. The mistake was that he misunderstood the words "ayushtabde," but he thought "ayushtabde" means make her hefker, and in fact, that's not what "ayushtabde" means at all. What "hayishtabdu" means is don't work with her anymore, but keep her as an eved. That was the mistake he made. The problem was only the language. He was clearly said, I'm making this hefker. I want you to set him free. It would have passed on to the children. Hochinam would have passed on to the children. Kasha Maimer says that you cannot pass on Isa to the children. I hold that Rabbi Yechon never said that. And I hold that a beautiful Shmuel who has a different version of what Rabbi Yochanan said, which was that if he says this woman did a kairos ruach for me, something nice, do the same thing for her. Nothing to do. Saying much further. Sorry, Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. The name Rabbi Yochanan. Ahu discarded. There was this village, the Avdi. It seems like there's a village that basically was populated by Avodim. By Avodim Ever Kanani that belonged to different Yiddish masters. And that's where their sleeping quarters were. They all spent time together. And what happened was these Davel Chadim, and they were all sold to a goy. And the din is when a Yid sells an Eved to a goy, the Eved goes free because we're upset. You denied him the opportunity to do mitzvahs. And we punish you, penalize you. What happened was Kolam Mavasa Basroi. The owners, the latter owners, the goyim, all died. Also the Kamed Rabbi Kiva and said, okay, these avodim now need to get shichur. So what should they do? He said, Zilu ahadra bnei mavosa kamoi. Let them go back to the original owners, and the kosh will get to the cherusa. They should receive the get shichur. Not like Amemar says it's too late. You should receive the get shichur. They should get shichur, so they'll all be set free. They'll be full-fledged. They should be full-fledged. So these original owners might have died right now, gone to the children. How in the world are they going to be able to give them a get shichur? Amema says you can't pass it on. He said, I hold like Avdimi, which is like I wanted the children. You could pass it on. But Avdimi too, Avdimi was a mistake. We knocked it out. The thing before. My two says not the principle is a mistake. The language that he used, the syntax. Oh, but if he would have said, "I'm making my hefker," I want you guys to write it would have passed on. The halacha is like Ravina. The halacha like Ravina that the children they can write the get shich or can write the get shich with the avodim. Who have there was an Eved. There was an Eved, the Beit Trey, he had two owners. And we learned before that if one of the owners set the Eved free, he becomes a Chetzi Eved, Chetzi Ben Chayden. Sunday he works, Monday he's free. Tuesday he works, Monday he's free. And the problem is now he can't marry anybody in a state of limbo. He cannot marry Yiddish woman because he's half Eved. He cannot marry a Shivchak, he's half free. And that's why we're learning more Chagiga there, or we're learning about Basta and other places. And here, that you force the Balabas to set him free. Says the Gemara. So what happened was this master was sneaky. One of the masters decided to set him free. Omar Idach, the other master still owned him, wanted him to continue working, but he was scared the rabbis will come and force him to set him free. So what did he do? He's a sneaky guy, very cunning. He went overhead, hash the shami bit abundant, master benai, the rabbis will come and take more away from me. Also, act a little like cut. No, he did. He said to his younger son, who's under bar mitzvah, you now own the Eved. And we learned before, a cotton can be koine with the rabbanon, but Dasa Ches Makta maybe Matayda, long shachar, and Tish before. But so therefore the rabbanon can't force the child to give up the Eved. Smart. Sholcha Rabbi Yosef the Rava, so Rava's son, whose name was Rabbi Yosef, after his teacher, Lekamei the Papa, sent before the Papa, and said, "Tell me, what do I do?" Shalach the Papa said to him, "You got to be strong. A Rav has to have authority. Kasher Asa, Ken Yasa Loy. The way he behaves, that's how you behave to him. Gemul Loy Yashaloi. Give him his just reward. Whether he's saying this is a case of revenge or this is just the halacha, but right in his head. Anan Kimlam Binuka. This child is an intelligent kid. So we have a rule when it comes to an intelligent kid. If the kid himself really wants to sell, you're not forcing the kid, then it's all right. We can entice the kid to want to sell the Eved. What is a kid like? He sees a dollar bill or gives a golden coin, gets all excited. Remember Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was 3 years old, the test that they gave him to see how you're smart or not. Exactly. Well, you're right. Anan Kimlam Binuka, we know about this kid, the mikveh died to the Gabazuzit. Well, this particular kid loves money. Loves money. We're going to set him up. Somebody who is going to administrate the entire affairs there. And we are going to, like in a cup, shake over there some coins in, make a few sounds. Because willingly, this kid is going to write a get shicher in order to get that. So we don't have to force him. Because forcing is questionable. But we don't have to force him. The kid willingly is going to, give up the Eved. However, if you don't do the sign of the coin, the kid, why would the kid be interested in giving up Eved? But if you give him a chocolate bar or a few lollies, be more than happy.
Then it's so appreciated.
Yeah. But who do you write to get shicher? Al Shmei. You write to get shicher on the name of the apotropos. The apotropos himself cannot set the Eved free because he cannot in any way do anything which adversely affects the assignment. And this is adversely affecting the assignment because he's losing out on this Eved. But this, even though we learn a kid cannot sell, that's talking about property. But when it comes to metalton, if a kid is mature enough, he can actually sell the metalton as well. And we're treating the Eved here. In this case, when we had an argument of Eved like Karka or metalton, in fact, we had more before. Everyone agrees that Eved is Karka in the case of major mixes. But here we're treating the Eved like it's metalton, and therefore the child can sell it. And the robot is merely to make sure that it's the right thing to do. That's how Rashi learns. Sorry. So Rashi learns we do it on the name of the child. And Teish has a problem with that because how can you do it and write on the name of the child? The child is giving up when the child, his maisim are not really valid at all. And therefore, he says, when we write it on the name of the apotropos. And because Hefke, Bez, and Hefke is as if we're going to take the Eved out of the realm of the child and give it to the apotropos. The apotropos is therefore the one who can be makned. And we're doing that because this cunning plan that this father did, which he did the wrong thing. Yeah. In general, the Patrufus has no right to do that, but over here is an exception. We're going to allow the Patrufus to do that because the way this person behaved. And it sounds like a knas. And the Bein Tam goes further. It's the Patrufus is not even a cost. Because he said, if we're in a class, the Gemara would have used the words, he misbehaved, therefore we misbehaved. That's not actually what he says. When the Papa says, Kain Yas, he's saying that this is the din, that the Minhadin, the Patrufus has the right to set the Eved free if it's a form of like purchasing his way out by giving a few coins. Doesn't matter if it's a true value, it's like purchasing his way out. So why do you have and the reason he says why we give the coins is since that Patrufus actually can do this, so we don't even need the kid's input. But we don't want it to look bad. The kid is screaming, "Oh, my father gave me the Eved, what are you taking away from me for?" So we make the kid happy, pacify him by giving him a few coins. Not that right. Wait, actually learned it's the kid who's giving up the Eved. Taisa learns that Patrufus is giving up the Eved. In this case, he's allowed to. He's allowed to. And could be that Taisa is trying to also accommodate, even though they said that the evidence, it could be karka, and a child can't sell karka, but Apatrufus can. So maybe that's why Taisa also goes, expands and says it's Apatrufus. Anyway, let's continue. Talk about we learned. Now we're talking about texts, the vernacular we use, or the language that you use in the shtar shichra to say you set free. If you say Asisi Pliny Abdi ben Chayrin, I made this Eved free, Asri ben Chayrin, he was made free, Hareyu ben Chayrin, he is free, then Hareyu ben Chayrin. All of these are languages that are a sign of freedom. And the get is good. But if he says Esenu ben Chayrin, if he says I will make him free, so Rebbe says, it sounds like you're saying, with this document, I'm going to make him free. I'm going to set him free. He's a full-fledged Yid. So therefore, it's all right. Even though it's future tense is relating to this document which you're about to give him. And the Chachamim say, loikana. Why? Because it's a language about it. You're giving a document, I'm going to give you another document where I'm going to set you free. And therefore, it sounds like this document is only like a guarantee or a promissory note that I'm going to do something. Because he's talking about the future, and the future. Even though this is the future, also I'm about to give it to him, but the future sounds like it's beyond this, not what's contained in this particular document, and therefore it's not a language of shikhr. We're talking about language that you wrote in the shtar. We're saying this is what you wrote in the shtar. But if you said these words without a shtar, that's not a way of freeing an eved, and therefore the eved still would be an eved. If you said Hareyu ben Chayim, nothing. If you say Hefker, it's something else. When you say ben Chayim, you're just saying that you are free. That's not Hefker means I'm giving you away. I'm giving you away. So Hefker is a language that you can use, even though it's only words, you only verbalize. It takes explaining people blah before. But here, Hareyu ben Chayim, you tell a state of being, you are free. What? How? But if you put in a star, okay, so you learn from the Isha that star is effective. So these words are not effective unless they're incorporated in a shtar, but also has to be talking about present tense, past tense, not future tense, according to Chachamim. Think about it further. Let me learn. Same thing applies to a field. The son of plane, I gave this field to the person. The son of plane, it's his. All of these words are words of that it's his. At Nenela plane, you say future tense. I'll give it to him. He says because I'm saying with this document, I'm going to give it to you. And I'm say like you're saying. This is a promissory note. I'm going to write you another document. I'm going to same thing, but this is the same laws apply to a field. So I'm going to learn. If a person says, I made this Eved free. I set him free. But who I made very odd, but the Eved said, Lo Yasani. He doesn't want to go free. He denies it. I never received it. Chashinan, we say we concern Shema Zichla de Acher. The guy says, I set him free, even though the Eved said I didn't get it. Even though we use the word Chashinan, we mean that this is how we interpret the action. That must be that the master gave someone else a shtar shichur on behalf of the Eved, and he said, be zoich on behalf of the Eved. We learned before, the Chacham say that once you did that, the Eved is set free. You cannot even change your mind because it's a good thing for the Eved. Okay. What happens? Kosafti v'nosati like. The master says, I wrote a shtar and I gave it into the hand of the Eved. And the Eved said, no, you didn't. I never received it. Everyone enjoys his stay here, doesn't want to leave. But Lo Nasli gives me. In this case, we say, now what? That if the Eved is made and is harming himself, that he wants to remain an Eved, we trust him. And the boss thought he gave it to him. Taste already asked the question, why don't you use Hadoz Baldin on the master? He's also being made that I set him free. He's losing out. He just lost an Eved. But nevertheless, this case is there. It's more plausible. Now you have two people here. Each one's claiming this is what happened. Which one is more plausible that they actually made an error in their understanding? It's more plausible to say that the Noisan, the vendor, thought he gave the star that the Eved received it, and he made a mistake. Rather than if the Eved says I never received it, it's hard to believe. Because the master says I gave it to in your hand, and the Eved said I never got it. It's not plausible that the Eved here made a mistake. So therefore, we'll say dog about thinking made dummy. Thinking about it further. What do you call it? If a guy says, I gave this field to the person, the same thing. He didn't give me. Maybe he gave it to you through a third party. I wrote it and I gave it to him. He never gave me this document for the field. So who eats the fruits until that time? Who eats the fruits? Because this person says, I gave it to you. This person never received it. So who eats the fruits? As the Gemara, Rav Chizda says that the vendor can eat the fruits because it's his field. And Rabba Mishalshin is a potatoes. No, Rav Chizda says that since the buyer said, I never got it, you said you put it in my hand, never got it, so we say that he obviously never got it. So obviously the Noisan eats the fruits. It's his field. However, Rabba says, Mishalshin is a potato. Give it to a third party till you work it out. And there's no argument there. What do you mean? If the one who received the person, the father is still alive, and the person receiving it says, I never received it from you, then obviously he never received it. The father keeps the field, the father then eats the fruits. But if it's the son who says that my father said, sorry, if it's the person who receives the field says, I never received the field, obviously he doesn't receive the field, so it's a Noisan field, and therefore he gets the paytas. But if it's the son of the receiver said, we never got the field, Huntley never got the field, maybe he did get the field, you give it to a third person, because maybe there were witnesses out there your father never told you, but maybe the people out there who are aware that your father did receive the field. So therefore, it's a suffix, you leave it in limbo. Next Mishnah. It's a very cryptic Mishnah, and the Mishnah will have two ways of understanding who did what, when, where. We have a concept called apoitiki. Apoitiki we had a few times before. It's an apoi tehei koi, which means, okay, I borrow money from you and you have a lien on my properties, but sometimes I take a specific item and I say, you know what, this is going to be my collateral. This is this will be encumbered by this loan. Apoi tehei koi. This is where the loan is fixed on. Apoitiki. So I took my Eved and I said, this Eved will be an apoitiki. That means that you can collect from here. Now we had it a few times in Psachim and other places, where Rava said that three things can undermine a lien, overturn a lien on a property: hegdish and shichur and chametz. So, for example, if I gave my collateral chametz, and then comes Pesach, it's asabana. It breaks the collateral. If I gave you collateral on an animal, then I decide to make it hegdish, and according to Rashi, I made it kedushas haguf. I said the animal itself becomes a carbon. Now that belongs to the base of Mikdash. There's nothing left in there. There's no longer a shibud on it. So the hegdish takes away the shibud. And the third one is by a slave, shichur. If I set my Eved free, I no longer own the Eved. It removes that lien that's on the thing. Okay, that's what it is. So the Mishnah says, no, it's totally free. I owe the money to the lender, but no longer he lost his lien. Okay, it's gone. So the Mishnah, Eved also Rabbi Paitik an Eved that the Balbos made him on a Paitik for somebody else. This shichraru, and then he was set free. And we don't know who set him free. Is it the lender who set him free, or is it the borrower who set him free? Now the Gemara here doesn't talk about it, but in Gemara Psachim of Lamed Aleph we have a famous argument of Bai Barava, Balchoiv lemafreya goyva mekan habol, which means when if I you have a lien on one of my properties and I give you my property, does it mean that all along the lender owns the property, or no? That mekan habo. When I give it to him, that's when he gets, even though there's a lien on it, it's not his yet, so I give it to him. And the nafkamina is if the lender made it hektish, and then by the time he got paid with his property, he changed his mind. If mekan lahabo goyva, he could change his mind. He didn't really own it. He just said. But if it's lemafreya, like Abai says, lemafreya goyva. And the famous question that everybody's troubled with is that the argument in Abai and Rava regarding Bal Chayv, if it's from now on, or Lamafreya, is exactly the opposite in logic of Yeyush and Midas. Havi Yish or Loy Havi Yish. Abai said that Yeyush Midas is not retrospective. Loy Havi Yish. And here he said by Bal Chayv, Lamafreya Goiva, it is retrospective. And Rava Bayer says No, it's only when he finds out that's when he was miyayish. And here, sorry, and Rava says yish is if he would have known he would have been miyayish. So it is retrospective, and by alone he says it's mekana lahaba. How does it work? All the Rishonim talk about the hard one. So here, coming back here, who set the Eved free? We're not sure. Shuras adin. The right thing is if you follow the technical law, very interesting about here, ein ha'eved chayiv klum. The Eved owes nothing. Why in the world would the Eved owe anything? He's not the bar. He's a commodity here. We'll see. But in order to fix up the ways of the world to maybe benefit the Eved, we'll see. Koifin as rabbi, we force his master. Which master? The original master or the new master? But he set him free. And the Kaiser star al Dumbav, and he has to write a star on the value because somebody lost out. Who has to write a star on the Dumbav? The Eved? The lender? What's going on here? And Hashem Gamlil, Aymed ain't a Kaiser Meshach. The one who set him free, new owner for original owner has to pay out. What was going on? Okay, quickly. Eved also Rabba Plaiti, who should have set him free. Mi Shichra, who set him free? Rav said, Rabbi Rishon. The Rav learned this is how Pshat the mission is. The original owner, like we normally Pshat, set him free. And the din is that he can. Shudas Adin, ain't ever chayiv klum, Rabbi Sheni. According to Allah, the Eved did nothing wrong here. What did Eved do wrong? He's a commodity. And his original master set him free. He's a free man. Now, the original master owes money, owes the debt to the landlord. The landlord now, I said landlord, the new owner, to the lender. The lender now lost, his collateral. Okay, always one from the Eved. And like Rava said, Rava Hegdish. If I made something, I gave a lien on something, but then I turned it around and I made it Hegdish. Kedushas Aguf, I gave it to the business. According to the Tesis, makes no difference. Kedushas Aguf. Chametz, or it became Pesach and now suddenly it's Chametz, or and you can no longer use it to pay off your lender or go Shichur. Or if you're free, the Eved, Mafkim le Shibud. That's it. The Shibud falls away. This is the problem. The problem is we need to help out the Eved. You know why? Because the new owner will walk around and say, "You're my slave. I don't care what the original guy set you free. I put in the star, documented it. I point that you are my collateral, you're my security, you belong to me." And he'll spread the word around. So the Eved will argue, but his kids are going to be tainted forevermore. So Shema Yim Tzedek B'Shuk, he'll meet him in the street somewhere on shul and davening, and one Shabbat scream out, "You're my Eved." The Yom like Avdiyata, you're my Eved. So what we do is Koifin is Rabbi Sheni. So when the Mishnah says Shichra, you're talking about the original owner. So according to the halacha, that's it, it's over. However, we force the second master, this is to benefit the Eved. We force the second master to give a set of free, so don't go around saying that he belongs to you, because even you gave him a get Shichra. And you set him free. But Oisa ben Chayden, you make him free. Now, the thing is, the Koisim Eved Star al Domov. And the Eved writes a star on his money, because now that the second master sets him free, the Eved, it was set free, right? So he has to, he has to pay his way out. He has to, whatever, if his value is $100, he has to pay the $100. He writes a star on Domov to the original master, because the original master set him free, and pay his way out. But who would force it? So who set him free? The original master. Who is the one that has to, who we're forcing? The second one, so not walk around and moitzi las.
So the first part of the mission says V'shifru means
the original owner set him free. The second one. So you shouldn't go around bad mouthing this Eved. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Eina Eved Kaisev. The Eved does not have to write anything. Ella Meshacher, the one who set him free. That what do you mean? The original owner has to now pay to the lender the value of the Eved. Not the Eved has to pay his way out.
The original loan.
The original owner has to pay the value of the Eved to the lender. And what's going on here? Why does the original owner have to pay and not to the Eved himself? The Maika Milki, what's the crux of their argument? The Mazik Shibuda Shel Chaveri Miflagi. They're arguing an interesting argument. If you have a shibud on something and I break it, so I break it. So I'm like a cause. I'm a goyrim that causes you a little bit of a loss. The chayv is still outstanding, but you were counting on receiving this particular item, and you had a shibud on it, not just counting on it. You actually had some relationship with this item, and I ruined it now. Is that called a mazik? Is that really a mazik or not? So that's the machlekes.
The guy should have known that it was a weaker.
Yeah, but still, a paitik is a strong. Paitik is much more than just a stam lien on all your properties.
But
This
you
is
should have known that these three items are weaker.
so then nobody's going to money anymore.
Those
It's
three
a wrong
items.
thing to do to Meshacher. When that's it, exactly it. That's it. According to him, you're a mazik, so you wouldn't be doing it because you're gonna have to reimburse me. What's the point of freeing Evid? So if you hold that a mazik shibud chaveda is a mazik, that's a Shimon Gamliel. So therefore, the original guy has to reimburse the lender for the Evid that he lost. Omar Sabar Potter. Another one says no, that your mazik shibud is merely a cause. The loan is still outstanding, so you didn't really lose anything out. I just took away your collateral, but yes, the chayv is still outstanding. Okay, maybe now you have more of a headache to try to get your money, but I'm potter. Taisa says it's not really grama, even though I'm throwing into grama. It's a little bit different than garmi. He doesn't explain why it's different, but it's not exactly the same thing. So that's the argument. In fact, we learned that's exactly what their argument is. If you're mazik the shibud of somebody, if it's a hezek, then it's the original the borrower that has to reimburse the lender. And if it's not a hezek, then the eved has to reimburse the lender because he got his freedom. So the eved's freedom is worth his freedom, whatever it costs to be free. Let's just finish over here. Ula says, "Mi shichrei rabbi sheni." Ula says, "No. You know when the Mishnah says he was set free? He was set free by the lender. He was set free by the lender, not by the borrower, by the lender. Now, Shura Sadin, according to halacha, the lender setting free means anything. He's still an eved. The lender doesn't own the eved yet till he gets paid up with this eved. At this moment, who owns the eved? The original guy. So according to halacha, ain't an eved chayv plum mitzvah. He's still an eved. Nothing changed. He's still just like has all the din of a woman. Nothing changed. So in this version, it's the second guy who set him free. But the problem is that people think that he's a free man now, and they don't see Mishul coming to putting on full, and they don't see him doing all the things as the full-fledged Jesus. He's not taking it seriously. So Kaifin is Rabbi Rishon. We go now to the original guy, and we say to him, you have to set him free. You have to set him free because people think that he's free, and he's not behaving like a free yid. And the Koisev Eved Shtaradama, and the Eved now has to pay his way. Let's say he's worth $100 in the market. He's now set free. He has to pay. He doesn't have the money, an IOU for the $100. Shimagul argues. He says, "Ain't no Koisev Meshachar." You know who has to pay the money? The guy who set him free, the lender, has to reimburse the borrower for the Eved. Why is that? The Micah Miflagi, a hezek she'ena nikr. In this case, the hezek is not noticeable at all. Kamiflagi. The Eved hasn't changed at all. He's still Eved of the first guy. The hezek is more on something which is not tangible, and we'll have later on the Gemara Gittin Daf Machlekes Rav and others whether hezek she'ena nikr is called a hezek or not. We'll have it become in the beginning. Marsav Shmei Hezek. The Shimon ben Gamliel says it's called a hezek, so therefore the second guy, by setting him free, caused the damage to the first guy. He has to reimburse the borrower for the eved. And the Marsava, so no, but how much is he reimbursed by? The difference between the loan. The loan was for $100, and the eved was $150. He has to pardon the guy the loan and give him $50 excess for the eved. But the other one says loish mehezik. A hezek which is not noticeable is not called a hezek. You should reimburse, so if for the second guy, the lender doesn't pay anything, but the borrower has to set the eved free, and the eved has to pay his way out. He has to pay his way out. Ula, my time, why didn't Ula learn like Rab? We're talking about mazik shibudei. Why are we learning like Rab that it was the first master who set him free? It's very simple. It says in the Mishnah here that then you koifin, you force his rabbi. And who, according to Rab, who's the rabbi? We force the second guy because he shouldn't malign this Eved and say, "Oh, you're my Eved." So why would the Mishnah address the lender and call him rabbi? The lender hasn't yet taken ownership of the Eved. Obviously, rabbi would mean the first guy. No, but my time, why is Rab say like Ula? Barzal was talking about that the second guy is the one who freed him, and we forced the original rabbi. The mission starts off, and the Shichrei, he set him free. The second guy set him free. How can he set him free? He doesn't even own him yet. The only one who can set him free is really the original guy. So each one, the mission itself is very cryptic. Each one has a problem with the other one. The question is which word bothers you worse. Okay, we'll stop over here and continue tomorrow, Mr.